Yeah, so just to expand a little bit on that, I spent about 15 years taking other people's stuff to market or working in businesses that either had been around for a long time and didn't know what to do now, or people that were new and they didn't have all the pieces. I heard, I think it was Jasmine was talking about people have business partnerships. A lot of times when people have a company, it's usually two people. You go in and they'll have, two of the three pieces that you need to build a business. They got a sales guy and an idea guy, but no implementer. They have an implementer and a sales guy, but no ideas guy. And so when you come into situations like that, you have to help them with systems or selling or marketing or whatever. And over time, that was what I did. And I helped some companies get to 40, 50 million within, a year and a half of being there. And you always feel like as you're helping people build their businesses that you're going to get brought into the C-suite or they're going to keep you around because you did it. But everybody was guilty and I got screwed more times than I got helped. So when I was 35, I was like, I'll take whatever next small contract comes and then I need to figure out what I'm going to do for myself because I'm not going to keep making people a bunch of fucking money and then having them fuck me over in the end. So I went and bought my own businesses and kind of peeled off and did my own thing. And me personally, I have about 5 years left on my plan or whatever until I exit. So on my 45th birthday, whatever I've got, whatever it's built to, I'm going to put it all up for sale and sell it. And whatever I have is what I'll have, and then I'll have all my time back. So the way we're going to kind of start this, and you might start judging the people that you think you know when they answer some of these questions because it's stuff that people don't really talk about. And the way that I guess my presentations go, I'm not good at standing up here and just talking at people. I'm going to ask you guys questions. You're going to give me a lot of stuff. It's going to take us kind of where this goes. And to start out with, I love this question because people always think one of the answers means you're a psycho, but we'll see how everybody feels about it. But in the morning when you make like a bowl of cereal, are you a milk first or are you a cereal first person? So hands up for cereal first. Does anybody do milk first? Okay. Do you know, like, why do you do it? Okay. So anybody in here that does cereal first, why? Okay. But if it's Frosted Mini Wheats, the shit's heavy anyway. You overflow it. Anybody else? Okay. Right. I got, Chris Zizzo, right? I always make a joke that he's probably milk first because he has to fucking weigh it. Like, he'll weigh the milk and then put it in the bowl. Like a toothbrush in the morning. Who puts water on their toothbrush before toothpaste? Does anybody put the toothpaste on first? Yeah? Why? Fair enough. So, someone last Friday, when I was talking about this stuff, was like, I do water, then I do toothpaste, then I do water again. And I'm like, so do you feel like there's going to be more bubbles, because you'd use that much water? Has anybody moved within the last 6 months to a new place? A couple of you guys. Okay, cool. Do you go to the grocery store the same way that you did when you first moved in? You do? Oh, well, that's different. So, but you don't. What made you change it? Like the long way? Okay. What did you dodge going the new way? Okay. Yeah, there's school zones or a four-way stop nobody likes, stuff like that. When you get into your cars, shout out some of the first things that you do right when you get into your car. Okay. People start their car first? I had a guy tell me I have to finish my text. I'm like, literally every time you get into the car, you got a text that you're finishing? Like, is your trigger to go to the car because you got a text? Like, what does that look like? There's other people who are like, they plug their phone in, things like that. When you get dressed, whose left leg first? Everybody had to think about it. Whose right leg? Okay? Does anybody wear skinny jeans they have to jump off the bed into? Some people I feel like they got to have a fucking holder and then they have to jump off their bed into their pants thing to make sure that they can get on. So what do all of these things have in common? They're fucking systems, right? Everything that you do in life is a system. And when we talk about systems, what do we think? We think CRMs, we think sales cycles, we think marketing stuff, right? You've been creating systems since before you could walk. And it all ties back to efficiency, but you don't think about it as a system while you're doing it because it's not one, right? You're existing and you're living. So when you started going to the grocery store and you're like, fuck, this is the wrong way, you immediately changed it to find a better way. And sometimes you might have gone a longer way than the first way, but you were trying to figure out what the most efficient way to get to the grocery store was, right? So all you're doing is developing a new system for going to the grocery store, and you're trying to make it as efficient as humanly possible. So when people started making cereal in the morning, some people might have tried milk first, and then they spill fucking milk all over the table. And so they started doing cereal first. Why? Because the first time that they tried it was a mistake, so they had to try something different. I have Asperger's. A lot of people don't know that, but when I was younger, my systems were way different than what they are now. But to give you an example, let's say we had dinner plans at like 6:30. It takes me 22 minutes to get ready. So I would start getting ready at whatever time I needed in order to leave at the moment that I needed to leave to get there at 6:30. If you called me in the middle of getting ready and changed dinner, I'd be like, fuck this. And I'd go sit on the couch and I'm not going to dinner anymore. Because you've messed my entire system up of how I get ready. And when I'm done getting ready, I want to leave. So now if dinner is a half hour later, I can't leave when I'm at the end, which means my whole system is destroyed. That's the dumbest reason to not go. You know what I'm saying? I still need to eat, right? But all of a sudden, because I got rattled because they changed the way that I had to do stuff, I just didn't want to do any of it. And I think a lot of times when it comes to business, that's the point people get to. They get to a point where, well, fuck this, I'm just not going to do it. And it's because the systems that you're building to create whatever things that you're trying to get to, there's a bottleneck, or there's a wall, or there's a hurdle. And we get worried, well, what if the decision I make is worse? You don't care going to the grocery store, right? You're going to lose another 20 minutes. You tried to go the wrong way a second time, and it took you longer. You learn it and you adjust. That's the scientific method. So literally your whole life, you're using the scientific method every time to make all of your decisions. This is the original way I did it. I tried it this way. It wasn't better. I went back to the original way I did it. I tried it this way. It was better. Now this is new start, right? Same thing with going to the gym. Like all of the things that you do naturally are all systems based. But because it's business, or because it's health, or because it's a spouse, or whatever, we get stuck. And we stop trying to make these decisions. But if it's already broken, and you make it more broke, you can always go back to just broken. Does that make sense? I hate that. Does that make sense? I hate saying that. I should be saying like, do I explain that okay? Or, you know what I mean? Because if I ask you, does it make sense? I'm implying that you're dumb. And you're not going to tell me that it didn't make sense because you don't want to be dumb. So even if you didn't get it, we just screwed both of ourselves because I don't know who didn't get it, and I asked a dumb question to figure out if it made any sense. Anyway, sorry for the tangent, but that's my least favorite I used to bitch about that in sales all the time. Sales pitches, does that make sense? Yes? You don't want to say no, because anyway. So going back to kind of what we're talking about, at this point, I kind of want people to give me some examples of stuff that they're struggling with. It doesn't have to be like deep level business. It doesn't have to go super deep as far as like, it can be relationship stuff. It can be whatever. And I just want to run through, I guess, breaking through some of the ways that some of these things are systems based. And to give you examples, people have talked about hiring the right people. Like, how do you find the right people or whatever? And I'll use that one as an example before we jump into it, but I personally don't think hiring is a skill. I've probably been saying it for 20 years. When you get into a situation, and all of us have worked for other people at some point in time, right? They're selling a job and you're selling yourself. They need somebody, and you need a job. So you're both going to put your best face forward because they need to fill their slot, and you need a paycheck. The skill is in knowing when to cut bait and run from having somebody in your organization. So when you get into a hiring situation, you're going to have to hire people. And I don't hire resumes because paperwork they can make it as pretty as they want. Nobody is going to give you a list of references. They're going to talk shit about them. I don't even know why anybody calls. Like, oh, thanks for your references. One is their grandma, one is the dude up the street. Like, the references are never going to give you bad information because they wouldn't give them to you. So we spend all of this time vetting references, right? We spend all this time going through resumes. We spend all this time on all of these conversations. Really, you could sit down for an entry-level job and get an idea of whether or not they're a culture fit. And if they are in tune with your core values, you can hire them and give them a shot. And in 60 days, if they don't cut it, move on to the next one. Because it'll cost you twice as much money to run them to 6 months trying to fix them or turn them into the person that you think they can be. Because you can't make somebody want something that they don't want, right? But we all do that, don't we? We hire somebody and it's like, they have so much potential. It doesn't fucking matter if you see it. Because if they don't care and they don't see it, they're never going to become this person or this thing that you think they can be. And so that's what we're talking about from a system standpoint. No one ever wants to break the hiring cycle because this hiring cycle did net them good people, right? But could it be better is the question. And if you're not constantly testing your systems, you'll never know. And one of the conversations I was just having with him back there is he asked me so I run my own ad accounts, and I do $100,000 in ad spend monthly. My numbers are great on marketing. I've hired marketing and media companies. They can't beat my numbers. And I'm not a marketing person. I don't have a college degree. I didn't go to school for it. But it's data, right? So one of the things that we were talking about was you can literally take 15% of your ad spend or 20% of your ad spend and move it off center. So you know what your normal ad stuff, you know, what it creates as far as results go. And this other 20% is going to give you a new set of data. Could be better, could be worse. We don't know, but we need to run it. But people always do what we've always done, which is what he was talking about with, you know, putting milk first in the bowl, right? This is the way I learned how to do it. It gets enough stuff, we make enough money, right? So who has something that they're struggling with? I mean, it could be communication with their spouse. It could be business-based. What do you got? Okay. So are you talking like goal setting? Okay. Long lens. Okay. And you own your own business, right? Okay. So when you get to the end of a year, do you look at like totals? So when you look at that, is there a goal for like a percentage better the following year? Or what do you do at the end of the year to determine if it was a good year or a bad year? Yeah? But what's your criteria for that? Sliding sideways, 10% growth, new clients?
I've had a roller coaster the last few years with new projects, new companies starting, failures,
Right.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, I guess that's another big thing too. Because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, my goal was I was like, I need to figure out a way to make $50,000 a year
Mm-hmm.
by the time I'm 25.
Yep.
I'm 21 right now. I'm making much more $50,000 a year. So beyond that, it's been
So going with long-term goal setting, it's kind of a big ask because not everybody wants the same things. So for an example, everybody in this room has started a business because that's what we want, right? We always talk to people about breaking free from their 9 to 5. Like, you need to go and control your own future. What's wrong with having a 9 to 5? Nothing. Because if people didn't want to work 9 to 5s, none of us would have employees. Everybody would have a business and we would be totally fucked. So there's tons of people that are totally happy with working a 9 to 5 because they want to go paint. or they want to learn to box, or they want to play on a soccer team, right? So when they go through their goal setting, they have an amount of money that they want to make a year, and they have other stuff that's more important than their career that they want to achieve. So as long as they meet this bare minimum, right, in the system that they're building, they have all of this time now to go and do all of the things that are actually important to them. So the things that you have to figure out if you're looking at long, what's important? Is it time? Is it income? Is it, like, what are the things that make you feel like you're achieving what you want to out of life? And then once you determine what that is, it's easy to set long. Because if you hit your revenue, your numbers, right? Like, do you want to build a business to sell it?
My big thing is being able to do whatever I want, whenever the fuck I want.
Freedom, right.
Yeah, like
Yep.
that's my big thing.
So I can give you a parallel, because that's actually my plan. So like I said, when I hit 45, I'm going to sell everything. The whole point is you need to understand what you're running at. So if you want your time, you need to have a goal. I was talking to people last night that about there's types of people that read a lot of books, and they go to a lot of networking events. They go to a lot of business shit, and they're always talking about, I'm working on this stuff. I'm going and I'm learning or whatever. And I use anger always as the example when I say this, because everybody knows somebody who's angry. But they'll read books about self-help, right? And then they'll come and talk to you, and they'll be like, I'm working on being less angry. Well, so when are you going to be less angry by? You know what I mean? It's not a real thing. It's an excuse to continue being angry, but telling people that you're actually trying to fix it, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to be less angry, that's a decision, right? So one way I have to do, the other way I can excuse my way out of it until I fucking die, because I'm working on it, right? So if your goal is to have free time, you need to figure out when you need your time by. Is it 40? Is it 50? Is it 35? And whatever that is, you need to figure out what your life looks like and how much it's going to cost to have all of your time. You know, if you're gonna be minimalistic and you're gonna backpack for 35 years, you don't need a million a year to live off of. You know, you need 50 grand, because you can go down to Costa Rica and live off 50 grand pretty fat. But if you're gonna do it in New York, the number's different. So if you're worried about making sure that you understand how far out you're going, the system you have to build is the ladder to get to what freedom is. And I mean, it's, for most people, it would be a dollar amount. But it's probably not as much as you think it is. Because people are like, oh, well, what if I run out? If you had $20 million and you had it doing 8% a year, you're making $1.6 million. Probably do okay on $1.6 million forever. But a lot of people don't look at it like that. And so you really have to get into the actuals of what your exit looks like or what your goal is and set a deadline. It's like if you, any of you guys in here play sports? Wrestling or anything like that? Boxing? Okay. So about that, like if you had a meet coming up, you have a deadline. If you're a wrestler and you got to make weight, you have a deadline. If you're a boxer and you got to make weight, you have a deadline. When we get outside of organized stuff that tells us when our deadlines are, we have no system. Because the system for success in the sport is the structure of the sport. You know when your deadlines are, you know when your games are, you know when you have to be ready by, and you set yourself up for that. You got coaches and everybody that's reminding you about it. How many people in here have a mentor that they go to all the time? Not a lot. Anybody that pays one? How much have they helped you? Truthfully. The people who don't have one, are you not doing it because you're not sure what return would be? If you paid someone $5,000, like, do you feel like you wouldn't get $5,000 in value back? Like, honest question. Like, anybody that hasn't picked up a mentor, is the reason why money? What's that? And that's fine too, as long as you're looking. It isn't something that people ask me all the time to do. I don't have time. I would love to help people build businesses, but I have a deadline, and it doesn't fit my narrative. And so I think a lot of people, when they get into it and you start doing better, are you the smartest the person in the rooms that you're in? Are you the smartest person in your friend group? That's all a system. You know that, right? If you're the smartest person in your friend group, they have nothing to offer you. And I'm not saying that negatively. I'm not saying y'all can't have fun and play soccer and whatever, but you need to find a different group of people professionally to be around, because they're not going to help you climb your ladder. That system will fail you 100% of the time. It's like they always say, like, show me 5 felons and you'll be the 6th. I have a felony, so I know a little bit about it. That's an ecosystem that you live in. And so when you have a business in the system you're in, are you the bottleneck? Do you have to see everything? Do you not trust people to finish? If not, why not? You hired them, didn't you? So are they the problem, or is it you? Either you hired like shit because they can't do their job, or you hired the right person but you won't let them. How many people have a situation like that? Other people in here, show of hands, who knows for sure they're their own bottleneck? So honestly, recognizing that is huge. It took me a really long time. I was not ready to say I was the problem for a long time, because it sucks, right? But what are you afraid of? Losing your whole business? Failing the people who are paying you to do something, right? But how do you scale if you can't do that? Bit of a problem. So when you look at people that are in your space that are crushing it and they're netting 7 figures, what are they doing differently than you are? What do their systems look like? Do they have a hierarchy? Do they trust people to get their job done? How many of you guys in here have more than 5 employees? Anybody? You know what the number 1 rule about having employees is? Anybody want to guess? So it's not monetary. Nope, not monetary. The number 1 rule about having employees is empowering them to make mistakes. Because how do you know when you look at a set of data that it's right? It's your gut, right? Repetition. You fucked up before, and you've been wrong. So if those people don't go through that same system of learning, they'll never be able to replace you. So when you get into situations like that and someone does fuck up, are you going through it systemically to get them to recognize where they fucked up, or are you just showing them where they were wrong? Most people just show them. If I have that problem, the system for me is, I grab that person, I'm like, hey, I want to talk through this situation here. Oh, I know I screwed up. No, I don't, I'm not placing blame. I just want to talk through it. In my head, I already know what they did, and I know what I have to do to steer the conversation, but I'm not going to do the talking. They are. All I'm going to do is ask questions. Why? I need to understand how they made the decision. I want to know how they got there, because there's logic they followed, right? They didn't just guess. They went through a process, and then they determined that this was the right course of action. So as I'm going through the data and I'm asking all of these questions, at some point, they're going to look up and go, oh, fuck. And I'll be like, what'd you figure out, right? And they'll explain it to me, exactly how I need to hear it. If you go through that process, they had to figure it out themselves because you didn't tell them what was broken. Do you think they'll ever make the same mistake again? Because they had to do it. And so the cool thing about that is, whatever you lost on the mistake, you'll never spend it again. If you go and tell them what was wrong, will it happen again? 100% it will. Why? Because they don't know where they screwed it up, and they never retraced their steps to figure it out. Does it take you more time to go through that? Sure. But systems take time. You have to implement them. What's the one thing for anybody that played in organized sports here? What your coach tells you all the time if you went off script? You come back to the huddle and they say, run the play, right? How many times y'all heard it? Every time. But how come we don't run our own plays? Audibles are good if you're in trouble, right? And you got to think fast, 2-minute drills, right? But during the game, there's a strategy. And the teams that run the play are the ones that win Super Bowls. The guys that do a lot of audibles, they're fun to watch, right? But like they don't make the playoffs. Like, it's a good time. Do you have a question? I saw you put your hand up.
So a lot of stuff you're saying is resonating with me. And I think there's really young, smart individuals in this room, and
Yeah.
because of the lack of experience, we make a bunch of mistakes,
Yep.
right? And so one of the things that I'm learning right now to put a system in place is your decision-making pattern.
Yep.
A lot of us have the pattern of making decisions on buying a hype. Right? A lot of us. I don't care. You're not buying. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of people come to you and be like, "This is the latest and greatest." All right, sign me up.
Yep.
Fucking 30 grand, 40 grand. I spent $100,000 last year in coaching. I'm at a point in my life, I don't fucking need coaching. I need action. I need more precise, educated decisions to get me further.
So with that statement, explain to them what the difference is between a coach and a mentor.
Oh, man. Well, a coach is somebody that, and again, maybe my perspective is
It's probably not.
I've hired coaches, I've hired mentors. I spent tons of money doing it along with friends.
No, you said it wrong. You hired a coach. You don't hire him.
A mentor is somebody that can guide you.
Yeah.
A coach is somebody that's going to charge you.
Yes. And a mentor may end up charging you in the end too, but it's an organic setup, right? Like you're going to find somebody that you just click with that's in your industry that's going to talk to you about all the times they skin their knees. And that's why it's important. So if you end up finding a mentor, the way that I found mentors that I use is I would hit people up I wouldn't normally talk to that don't sell coaching and don't sell programs. And I'd be like, I'll give you $1,000 for an hour of your time. I just want to pick your brain. 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. Why? One, you recognize that their time is worth something, and you offered it up without them having to ask, right? And two, they know that you're going to stick to a topic and you're going to want to cover something because no one pays $1,000 for an hour for no reason.
And I like to add on to it. Most of the coach, what he's saying on the hype train, if I coach you one-on-one, I could probably teach you everything you need to know about media buying in 60 to 90 days, right? 100%. If I want you to stay on and continue to pay me, what do I have to do? I have to sell you the next shiny thing. That's what I believe that Jose is trying to say, because they keep me hanging on to the next shiny thing. And what happens to you, you buy the hype, and next thing you know, you've done made a decision process, what Jacob's saying, where you now focusing on 8 things you should.
Well, so let me even systemize that. So a lot of you guys probably follow people that sell courses and things like that on your Facebook timeline. They put out a lot of content, right? If they're doing all the shit they're saying they're doing, how the fuck are they on social media that much? And I'm asking you that seriously. I bitch about it all the time. Like I know what I was saying over here. I know what it takes to do what I do. I know how much time it takes. There are days I disappear off social media for 4 or 5 days in a row. I know I'm supposed to put out content because if I don't, I lose my algorithm. I don't even fucking sell anything. I don't use my Facebook for shit. Have you guys ever seen me put a product of anything I have up? That's what I'm saying. If I put it up at 6 in the morning, yeah, they don't exist. Because I'm not a brand. I don't care about that. People who do care about being a brand put that before everything. If they got time to put 7 posts up a day that are 35 paragraphs full of fucking emojis, let's fucking goes, and exclamation points, that is not the person that you need to be telling you how to run your business. 100% not. Don't fall for shit like, there's 100 people out there that are trying to do, what do they call them? They're like accountability groups for people that are in industries or whatever. And like all it is a bunch of ass slapping and high fiving. If you need that to wake up in the morning, you need to pick something else. I'm telling you right now. I wake up fucking ready to go every morning. Even the mornings I'm not ready to go, I'm ready to fucking go. Why? Because if I don't, nothing happens. And it's like, it's hard. How many people in here wake up before 6 a.m.? Most of you? How long did it take for that to happen? Immediately? No? You don't? Yeah. Well, so what I'm talking about is there's a system to becoming able to do it. You have to make changes and decisions. But that's a system. Waking up at 4 in the morning for me is a system. I'm asleep at 8:30. At least in bed at the very minimum. I'm in bed. People are like, why do you go to bed that early? Why the fuck I need to stay up late? And everybody's like, oh, it's just normal. Why? Normal for who? You know what I'm saying? Fuck happens at 9 o'clock I gotta be up for. In my world, in my system, I don't need it. I love boxing. I have not stayed up to watch boxing in as long as I can remember. Why? If I stay up till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm broken for 4 days trying to fix my shit. Do you know what time I go to bed when I'm on vacation? 8:30. I don't give a fuck if I'm in Tahiti. I'm going to bed at 8:30. Why? That's what I live in. No, I try. If I'm 6 hours ahead, I actually will go. I'll acclimate to the time, and then I'll go to bed at 8:30. It's 6 hours difference in Tahiti. That's a little difficult, but I should have picked a better fucking country. But that's my system, and I live in it. Like, and that's, if you were to look at my time, I am super intentional with all of my minutes of every day. If I'm playing video games, it's because I need to check out. I don't play video games for 7 hours. I pay them for 90 minutes. I'm too close to a project I was working on, and I'm stuck.
If we all know we should do this, why do you think most people don't?
It's honestly, it's fear of change. People love sameness, but you have to create new sameness. Here's actually a great one. How many of you guys quit eating breakfast in high school? Let's say most people don't. Sometime between middle school and like senior year, you just didn't wake up anymore for it. Unless you had to go to wrestling practice or some shit like that, like before school. Because I know to do wrestling shit, you had to eat or you'd fucking die. But the process for that was you determined that waking up early wasn't worth it, right? So what ends up happening is in first period, your body starts bitching that it needs food. Why? Because it's programmed that it's going to get food. So in first period, your stomach and whole body's fucked for 3 or 4 weeks because it's asking, yo, you forgot something. Like, where's the food? But after 4 weeks, your body quits asking because it got programmed that you're not going to feed it. And so it learned that it's not going to get breakfast, and it's going to start operating a different way. It was uncomfortable, but you decided it was worth feeling hungry during the first period because you didn't want to wake up. That's just a decision. And then all you did was build a system around it. I don't think I want to wake up early anymore. What do I have to do to change that? I'm going to quit eating breakfast. Done. New system. Am I explaining that all right? There are so many parallels to the stupid shit that you don't think about to all of the big decisions that you don't make that don't make any sense. You're just like, well, what if it's worse? What if I break it? What if I lose money? Well, how do you grow a business if you don't make new decisions? The definition of insanity is what? But we do it. And it's a decision to keep doing it. Every time you go to the mall and you buy the same brand of bread, you could try something different. You don't because you like the one you have. How many of you guys been doing the same chest workout routine for like 2 years? It's a system that you built. It's comfortable, right? You feel a little insane if you go out of town and you don't have the equipment to do it. It's weird, isn't it? But if you think about it like that and you apply it to your business, you have to make a bunch of new decisions. Because your pecs aren't going to get bigger benching the same amount of weight. You're trying to go up in weight, right? Well, if you're trying to go up in weight in the gym and you want a business to be bigger, you have to put more weight. You need more people. How many of you guys spend a lot of time chasing the same dollar? Yeah. We were just talking before I got up and talked. There's businesses that have 60% of their wage bill is service. Do you know what service departments do? Save clients. It's not revenue generating. They're spending 60% of their wage bill on people that are keeping people on board. Their systems of getting clients and retaining them are so bad, they have to insert humans to have conversations with people that are pissed about quitting. Why would you do that? But a lot of people are like, well, I can't land a client that's going to cut me a $50,000 check or $100,000 check. Why not? Are the people that are getting those checks, are they smarter than you? Do they work with different data sets? Do they work in different systems? You guys are all using the same technology. You're all running at the same numbers. You're all chasing the same data. All your shit goes in the same platforms. The only reason why you can't close one is because you decided you can't. And what happens if you want to close one? You got to develop a system to get in front of those people. What does that look like? Is it email driven? I mean, if you're a marketer, you should be able to market your own shit in front of the people who you want to sell marketing to, right? Sounds pretty simple to me. But that's the hurdle. Well, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Why not? You know that if you sell to a $5,000 client, the system you've built will give you this amount of money. And you're okay with it. And you're all right with that. And that's fine. But if you ever want to add staff, if you want to go and hire the guys that can replace you, you're going to need the money from the people that are cutting you six-figure checks. Because you got to pay salary to the people that are worth having that can replace you. Because if you want your time back, you can't be in the trenches. And to get to that, we'll talk about like personal systems. Who in here pays someone to do their lawn care? One person? Who mows their lawn? What's that? Oh, no. Oh, you're all in an apartment? Where do y'all live? Shit, apartments. Fuck. We live in hotels. We don't even wash our own towels. The only reason I use the lawn thing is because people look at it as an expense they don't have to make. Anybody change their own oil? Yeah? So when you look at it, there's an economic term called opportunity cost. You can use that with time. So if I want to make, let's just say $100,000 a year, in order to do that, I have to make $2,000 a week. If I work 40 hours a week, I have to make $50 an hour. Any task I do that pays me less than $50 an hour, someone else needs to do it. Otherwise, that hour doesn't pay me what I need to get. We're like, well, I do it on Saturdays. So you don't have any downtime now? You need your Saturdays. You have to recharge. You got $50 an hour to make. So if you're changing your own oil and you're mowing your own lawn and you've got all this shit that's supposed to be saving you money, one, it's taxing. You're going to be tired. You know, I have a house manager that works in my house fucking 30 hours a week. I pay her $40,000 a year. She does all my laundry. She does all my grocery shopping. She cooks all my food. She fucking walks my dogs. I don't have to do any of that stuff. Neither does my wife. You know how much stress it takes off you? A ton. More than $40,000. No. But like neither one of us have to do any of that shit anymore. But like it started with not mowing my lawn. You know what I'm saying? You go out and you mow your lawn, it's an hour. It's hot as fuck. You have to shower when it's done. You ruin a pair of New Balances. Like who wants to do that? Right? If you pay someone to mow your lawn, you don't have that 3 hours that you had to waste anymore. That could be your recharge time. Maybe you spend that time with someone you're dating. Maybe you sit down and you dive into where you're got holes in your business that need to be fixed. That's a system. This is what I do and this is how I do it. Like you could predict where I'm at any time of the day by what time it is. I do the same shit every day without fail. I lost a lot of friends doing that, but none of those friends are making as much money as I am. And money's not even really the goal. I grew up in a fucking trailer. Money's cool. Stuff is cool. I have like 7 cars. If I didn't have them, it wouldn't matter because they're not who I am. And I could build it all again without any fucking question. And I would have way more to start with this time. So the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is start questioning your own systems. Start questioning the people you hang out with. Start questioning the stuff that you get out of your social groups. How much time are you spending fucking off? A lot. I was talking last night to somebody, the difference between the guys that have a business and do okay and the guys that are absolutely like destroying business and making a ton of money, it's how they spend their free time. And you all know them. They're the ones that go up the street on Friday night and have beers and shit in somebody's driveway and bullshit about nothing. But they'll make $500,000, right? They have a nice house. They probably drive an Escalade. They're probably not too bad. How do you get above that? At some point, you have to sacrifice something. You have to change what you're doing. Your system has to change. And so if you want to be like those people, copy that.
I got a good question for you. Say you did make half a million last year, and but you was all over the place, and you know that you can go back to 100K or 150K to try to you have to change your system to go backwards to maybe go forwards, and that's like a big fear thing. What is that? I don't even know how I'm trying to ask it, but that's something that you have to question your own system because you know that where you're at now, you're capped. You can't get to a million, even though you're at 500.
Yep.
But you know that there is a possibility you can go back to 150 to get to a million. That's a big system change.
So I'll actually use a gym analogy. Hopefully it will resonate because I don't know if anybody in here is a gym person. But when I was 21, I was really big on bench pressing, right? And the thing is, my form was bad. I did a lot of narrow grip stuff, which is mostly tricep. And you know those people when you see them in the gym and they're 40 because they don't have any pecs and their tricep is literally like this big because it's all military press, right? So I'm on a bench, I'm doing like 225, and like when you're 20 years old, you feel like it matters, like the dudes in the gym care how much you can lift. You'll find out over time that the girl on the beach doesn't give a fuck and they'll never ask. But for some reason, we care about what the dudes in the gym lift next to us think, which is fucking weird. Anyway, I had a guy that was like 50 come up and tell me to move my grip out. And he was like, you need to be going at a rectangle. He's like, you need to touch your shoulder blades together. You need to stretch your pec. And you should be fighting it coming off bottom. Well, I tried it with 225 pounds. That did not go well. He had to help get it off me. And so he started stripping weights to see what it would take for me to do it right? And he took 90 pounds off. So I had to go down to 135 pounds to do the rep the right way. What do you think I did when he left? Put the plates back on. Right? Because why the fuck would I go back? Do you know what my max bench is now on the top of a 300 rep pyramid? 435. Why? Because I do it right. Do you know how long it took me to decide I was going to take a hit on my ego and start doing it right? 4 years. Why? Because I couldn't get past 285. So it took 4 years, 60 additional pounds, and shoulder problems to decide, okay, probably should do what I learned 4 years ago. So the sooner that you hit the reset button, the sooner that you're going to get past your $500,000. The less responsibility that you have when you do that, the easier it is to give the money up. Because you're not in a system where you have to spend it. If you get to 40 and you still haven't fixed it and you got 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage and 2 cars, are you going to do it right? Probably not. Why? Too much risk. And risk is part of system assessment, right? So the sooner that you go back and make it better, the quicker you can springboard past your $500,000. But it takes resetting the system to make sure that you're doing it right. And to get to that, or to say that, how many people chase sales first before they worry about service? Everybody. Why? It's easy to generate revenue. You can sell a bunch of shit to get to $500,000, but how many times do you have to replace people that cancel at $500,000? Because systems are broken. All the time. So you're constantly running at that $500,000 number trying to replace money that left because your systems are bad. It could be that you're not vetting people properly. It could be you don't have enough support staff. There could be 100 reasons why people would leave. But it all ties back to the way that you systemize how you do your client retention. Which it was cool that was what she talked about before I'm up here, because we're talking about systems, and so did she. The way that she titled stuff is she looks at, it's all circular, right? And it is. You know, this happens, result, repeat. And if you can do all of that stuff and you can do it successfully, that's how you get your retention. That's how you make more money. If you constantly have to replace money, you can't add money. And it all, like I said, it all ties back to the systems that you have in place to do it. People have systems to generate money. They don't have the systems to keep it. And they don't have the systems to keep it to where they don't have to go and talk to that money again. Because the more times that you have to service that money, the less that money is worth to you. So when people look at like my medical business, for example, if someone wants to cancel hormone replacement therapy, we just cancel it. I don't put any time into being like, oh, well, what made you change your mind? I don't fucking care. It costs me more money to have that conversation than just to let my ads run. Because I can go out and we know how many people that we bring in a week. So if my attrition rate's 8%, I know that's my attrition rate. And now if it were to jump to 15 or 16, I probably need to look into what's going on behind the scenes that's making people quit. But I know my numbers. So if you're data-driven in your business and you have systems that are tied to data, it's really hard to get emotional about that. When you guys, so this will be a good one. When you guys are about to make a decision that you're not confident about, that's usually when you go call and ask somebody for their opinion, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna break up with my girlfriend. Like, what do you think about it? Yeah, fuck her, dog. You just don't understand, right? Happens every time. Do you know what you were looking for? You were looking to be edified that it wasn't a bad decision. No one asks for help when the decision's fucking good. No one goes and said, hey man, I got this really good idea. Tell me if you think it's good. You already know it's good. You ask for opinions when you know it's bad because you want someone to tell you that it's okay to keep doing it. And then when you don't get it, you just tell them that they don't have all of the information that you have. But they do, right? So how many times do you wind up in situations where you keep doing the dumb shit because you keep justifying doing the dumb shit? Do you know how that works? It's a sale. You're the seller and the buyer. So if you want to buy your own bullshit, you will, because no one's going to stop you. If you have the right network, maybe they'll help, maybe. But if you want to buy your own bullshit, you'll buy it 100% of the time, because you're selling it too. And that's how you wind up in bad cycles. That's how you wind up in bad systems. That's how you wind up making less money than you want to. That's how you wind up having staff that you don't like. But it all ties back to decisions that you made. If you have a shit staff, you hired them all. If they're shitty staff, did you train them? What are the systems for training? Do you know how many people get crazy granular with SOPs but no actual system tied to the SOPs? Have you ever seen it? It's fucking wild to me. And that's the point, right? Because they think the SOP is the system. Oh, this is our operating procedure. Well, that's great, but like what system is it part of? Do you know how like a system is actually created in a workplace? One, you have to start it because you have to do it first. After you've determined what the process is, you would give it off to somebody else for them to run the play.
Can you explain how, you told me this last time, I don't know if you did this. When you're going to pick up a new product for your business, can you kind of explain your process and run it
Yeah.
so that you know, like explain that?
Yeah. So on the medical side, if there's new products that come out that we might carry, I literally take them myself. And it's not a 1 month thing. I'll do it for 6 or 9 months. Because I need to see what that product is going to do so we can talk to patients and stuff like that about what to expect. He was asking me specifically about, there's a new weight loss drug that people are crazy about called semaglutide. Most of you guys have probably seen ads or heard about it. It's that Ozempic drug. And it's blowing up right now for weight loss. And what's weird about the general public is they're mostly stupid. I mean, none of them read fine print. None of them follow fucking directions. Everybody wants everything now and really fast. No one cares about process. No one cares about doing it right. They just want the result, right? So they don't understand risk. And it's like, why do you tell people not to run near pools? Because you might fucking slip and crack your face. You know what I mean? So when you tell a patient, don't do too much of this because it's dangerous for you, there isn't a tangible on that, right? We know if we run by the pool, we might lose our front teeth. If you take too much of a drug, you don't really know. So the reason why I run my stuff is to test it so we can talk about, is it something if people decided to double up on it, is it a big risk to them? What would that feel like? What could we tell them to look out for? And when I ran the semaglutide drug, I did the proper titration and everything was fine. When I started deviating, I started having serious problems. And the reason why I tested on myself is because it's worth it to me. I have to understand my product. I don't need to understand its label. I don't need to understand the research. I don't need to understand the data, right? I need to understand how it happens. Because if I can sit down and talk to somebody about on week 3, this is our target, this is what you're looking for, this is how it will feel, this is how you know that we're past where we need to be, where it's the right amount, this is how we know it doesn't feel good, right? So to make it lateral, when you guys are pitching like people for marketing and media, you need 6 or 9 months to develop even a baseline for data because everything is seasonal. So it doesn't matter what products you're buying and selling, they have to pass through multiple different sales cycles or seasons and things like that for you to even determine a baseline. But most people sell products on 90 days. You can't determine shit in 90 days. And if they come on during a high sales cycle like Q4, now you got to compare your 90 days Q4 to Q1 and they don't understand the difference between the sales cycles. You're going to bottom out. Expectation is the problem there, isn't it? Well, oh, Q4 we did all this. Yeah, it's fucking Christmas. You sell sleds. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the original conversation. Like, hey, this is what's going to happen Q4. We're not going to be able to set a baseline on this. We're going to have really abnormally good numbers because this works here. What we need to worry about is we need to worry about down cycles. We need to worry about when it's not time to buy your product. And I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to develop systems to where we can figure out what bottom and baseline look like using the information you already have and all the sales information you've already got. And we're going to set that against the new stuff because we just want our bottom on the worst time to be 10% better than it was last year. Because the good times are always going to be good. And I don't want you to hold me against when times are good. I want to outperform when times were bad. Because good times will always be good. So are you talking about internal or are you talking about external? Okay. Well, so I'll start with external. So if you have communicated them on the front end, it's how often are you re-communicating expectations? Everything is done in repetition. And the best way that I can tell you to build these systems is to think about yourself. And when we're in it, people don't put themselves in that position. You have to remember, you're a consumer. You buy a ton of shit. You spend a ton of money on a ton of stuff. What does it take for you to go back and buy the same product? Have you ever analyzed any type of place that you go to repeatedly? Restaurants, oil change places? Yeah, like what are the things that keep you coming back? Do they always explain stuff? Do they follow up? Is it communication? Is it how they communicate? Is it digital? Is there a lot of touch points? Like how are they keeping your expectations met so that you don't have any questions and you just keep paying them? And then all you have to do is figure out how to replicate that with your own clients. It's really not that hard. It's hard because we don't think about it objectively. Subjective is very easy to do, right? I'm in it, oh, we're doing this, we're trying these things. If shit's broken, it's because it's broken and you're doing it wrong and you're not looking at it from the outside. You get some of your best advice from people that are not in your industry. One of the things that I talked about last week too, how often do you talk to your employees? And I don't mean like talk to them. How often do you ask them, what could you do better? Yeah. Yeah. No, as the owner. What if you go to them and ask them like, what do you think we could do better? They're going to look at you like it's a test. Right? Because they're not used to being asked that. But if you got 6 or 7 brains as part of your business, you got 6 or 7 brains. Why are you running on one?
I'm piggyback off that. I like to ask my ops team is, if you were the one running this company and you had one thing that you could fix in this company today, what would be that one thing? And that answer normally gives you the guidance that you're like, come on, this is what I need to focus on.
Well, and the thing too is they don't look at things from the same angle as you. You know, I've hired people that are 20 years old, and on their 6-week deal, I'm asking them what we could do better. They've given me shit I've never even thought about. I've got good ideas, they're not always the best. And if I run my good ideas past 15 different people, there's a good chance the great idea will be the result of those conversations. They cost time. They're going to require you to get out of your own space and drop your pride and get rid of your ego. And the quicker you can do both of those things, the quicker your businesses will take off. Like, people don't know what I do because I don't even tie myself to my own businesses. I'm not my brand. Do you know who matters? Everybody that's client facing. You don't fucking matter. And you won't, because they never deal with you. So if they're talking to the owner of a company that has 5 or 6 employees, something is wrong. It's not because they want to talk to you, right? It's because shit's broken and they fucking demanded it. So now you're the one having the difficult conversation because the staff didn't handle it properly or wasn't empowered to. The other piece of asking them what you can do better, you know what that gives them? Ownership when shit's like implemented. Because now not only did you ask them, you did what they said you should do. Now that they feel like they're part of the team, they're part of the brand, they're responsible for part of the growth. And they're going to treat the brand differently because now they're a part of the fabric. They're not just an employee anymore. They're on the team and they help make decisions now. You'll get your biggest buy-in from having those conversations. Because it's easy to be, think back when you were an employee. How many times did you say, fuck this place? You know? Once a week, once a day, once every 4 hours. I know when I was working at Applebee's, it was every 5 minutes. And I was eating all the free food, taking home pies and shit. That doesn't help their bottom line, help my bottom line. But I didn't care about them as a brand. They didn't do anything to help me. They didn't help my personal growth. They didn't want any of that stuff. I'd rather employ 100 people that are smarter than me. Because I don't give a fuck who the smartest is. I care about what's in the bank account. However the fuck I got to get there is how we're going to do it. And it doesn't matter if it comes from me. It doesn't matter if it comes from them. It doesn't even matter who built the system. If I've got a whole bunch of people where we're all running at the same goal, which we are as a team, right? The business is running at the same stuff. Employees want to make more money. How do the employees make more money? If the business makes more money. How do you make them care if the business makes more money? Include them in the business. You can if you want. Well, so I can give you an example of what I do for some of my staff. So one of my businesses has every other Friday off, and it's a paid day off. Literally every other Friday. They also get 10 paid vacation days. That's fucking 36 paid days off. Who else is doing that? Yeah. Nope. Day one. So not only that, do you know how many people request time off? They have a 3-day weekend every other week. If they want to go on a fucking trip, they can. I don't have to worry about scheduling being fucked up. I don't have people calling out sick last minute. I don't have any of those problems. Cost me $100,000 a year. They fucking love it. If they want to go make double money, they can go drive DoorDash and shit on the day. They're still getting paid from me. And they want to be employees, right? Like, so the same business, we have data that gets inputted at the end of the day, right? And then other people will verify it. If the company's has no errors on that data sheet above 83% on a month, I do a $2,000 raffle the following month. Yep. No, everybody. 27 in that one. But like most people in here would look at that as spend, right? That money's going out, not getting anything for it. It's scary to think about. Yeah, but you can always sell that to them as like it's an in-service deal for us. We're doing training, we're learning new stuff. Like, what are they going to go interview your employees to find out that they're fucking off at Six Flags? Probably not. So as long as you're communicating to them that stuff and they feel like everything's still getting done, it doesn't really matter. And again, it comes back to your systems. Can you service the clients in 9 days? I'm sure you could. You just have to build it. It's like hair salons. A lot of hair salons are closed on Mondays. People still want to get their hair cut on Mondays. Hair salon doesn't give a fuck. Schedule when they're open, you know? So, I mean, if that's the way you're running it, no one cares. But everybody will eventually succumb to the system because that's just what it is. And if they don't have any complaints about your deliverables, what does it matter? Do you hit your targets?
You brought this up originally when you were saying it kind of contributes to, like, hey, if the company does well, you're benefiting from it. How do you have that conversation? Like, hey, you're doing well, company does well, you get everything better.
It needs to be very open. Like, it needs to be in print. It needs to be something they can reference. It needs to be more than just a phone call. It needs to be more than something you're saying in a meeting. It needs to be a, hey, like, if you guys do this, everybody makes an extra $1 an hour or whatever, and you just set up goals. Because if you think about yourself, right, what motivates you every day to get up and do your job? Mostly. And your time, right? So somebody that's got 3 kids, they might want to go to Disneyland. You know how fucking expensive that is? So if they can figure out how to make another $1.50 an hour, that $1.50 could pay for more than 3/4 of that whole trip for their whole family. They have the motivation for it. $1.50 ain't a lot to you, right? It wouldn't be enough to make you work harder, but it's enough for Sam. Because you can show them how that multiplies. Instead of pitching it as a $1.50 an hour, right? You're pitching it at $250 a week. It's $3,000 a year. I'll give you a $3,000 raise if we just hit these marks. I'm literally paying you extra money to do your fucking job. That's it. Like the one that does the raffle, we have a thing like a cash incentive, and it's tied to the same data thing. So anybody who has stuff that's right or whatever, they get a certain amount of cash in their deal because it's right, and it comes out to $70 a month, and they can use it for anything. So like we have a Amex Gold card that's just for that cash. Like people are buying tires with it. We had someone buy a fridge. Like so they're literally replacing things that are necessary for their personal lives using money they've never touched. It's a write-off for me, but they got tires that they never would have wanted to buy. Tires aren't fucking cheap. So like they got free tires, they got free brakes, like whatever. They can put it on a vanilla gift card for all I care. But that's what keeps them coming back. 5 years ago, I was paying $14 and $15 an hour, and I was only hiring people that had been in the industry for 1 or 2 years. I'm paying $24.75 an hour now, and I'm getting RNs that are sick of hospitals. So I went from hiring MAs that were 20 and retarded to hiring nurses that know more than I know about how clinics operate. They show up to work, they're on time, they're early, they give a fuck about customer experience, and I don't have to think about them. I can go do anything else because I don't have to micromanage any of them. They don't call in sick, they're not late, they have a car, they pay their bills, their phones work. I mean, it's weird to say that matters, but how many of you guys have hired a 20-year-old whose phone just magically didn't work anymore? How many of you have been the 20-year-old whose fucking phone magically, right? But that's the risk. So, if you know who you're hiring. Like when I was working with sales companies, you have, like we talk about hiring and firing, right? If you're a brand new sales company, are you gonna get somebody that's really good at sales? You might, but he's gonna be an alcoholic. He might show up at noon smelling like vodka, right? But those are the only guys taking a shot on a brand new company. It's like when you guys are trying to hire people for your media company. You're not going to go and get a killer out the gate, but those same people who aren't killers, that are good at it but are a little bit unpredictable, they'll either come up with the company and they'll change the way that they operate and they'll buy into your systems, or they'll get replaced by other new people that now that you have a brand. But there's a system to getting to a point where you can get good talent. You just have to develop it. So the dude that used to get drunk or whatever, now all of a sudden he's making solid money. You're giving him the right types of book to read. You're talking to him about personal development. Next thing you know, he's running a sales team. And 2 years ago, he was the guy that would like stick his leg out at a street to try and get hit by a utility truck to cash a check, right? Now he's running your sales team. In part due to you and your systems. And I can say that like actually literally, because I had guys that were heroin addicts that I hired. And I gave them specific books and specific exercises, and they got obsessed with something different. Because addicts are going to be addicts, they just need to be addicted to something positive. And they have to want to do it because they have to get the same feeling. And don't get me wrong, there's people I failed with. But the system worked enough that I was willing to roll the dice on it.
How did you develop the system for that? I work in an industry where we help recruit people that are a little rough around the edges.
Yep.
A lot of them have problems, a lot of them are out of jail. Those people that we recruit place in companies, we call it companies, and a lot of the companies, the clients, like they want like clean drug tests, clean everything.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna pay them, $30 an hour. And I'm like, well, I don't know. You could get the right person.
So do you know why AA works? It's a community. You have to develop that. Because if you have a bunch of people that are coming from the same background and they're looking for the same type of success, if you can link them up together, they will drag each other up the hill. So if you're hiring people one-offs and your company's not doing anything to bring those people together to meet each other, you should start doing that. And it might cost you a little bit of money, but people are going to end up meeting up and trying to hold each other accountable for staying clean or showing up to work because they're going to end up getting jobs at the same places. The same people are doing the hiring for those types of programs. Like those, they want multiple people. It could be warehouse jobs. It could be, because they're not going to stick them in a bank. You know what I mean? But they're going to end up working at a lot of the same places. So if you can make them friends and you can do stuff that brings them and creates a community for them, they don't get lonely and they don't go back to stupid shit. It's like, think about you when you try to break away from your idiot friends from high school. You get bored on a Saturday and you just wind up going back and hanging out with them. And more dumb shit would happen, right? But you're doing it because you're bored. And you don't have anything better to do. You have to replace the idle time. And someone like me, I don't have a problem making better decisions because I don't give a fuck if people like me. I don't care if I have friends. Like, as long as I do what I say I'm going to do and my word is good, that's my currency. There's plenty of people that don't like me that would absolutely do business with me in a minute because they know what they're getting. I'm consistent. They know I'm really direct. I'm probably going to be an asshole sometimes, but you need that. But that's what you get with me, and they know that going in. So, if you're somebody that's more of a chameleon and you're trying to figure out where your place is, stop doing that. It's not going to take you where you need to go. A lot of people try and become something else because they think that's what they need to be to get where they're going. You just have to be you and develop something that's original, and you need to be your actual self. And it took me a long time to own that. Just so you know, I was a fucking people pleaser forever. Like, I had best friends that were girls that I wanted to date that I didn't have the balls to tell them. So I'm telling them their ass looks great in pants while they go out on dates with surgeons. You know what I mean?
What is your thought process when it comes to determining whether you should use your current system or throw it out the window and build a new one? Like, for example, we talked about that guy who hypothetically did that 500K he
Yep.
wants to get mil.
Yeah.
How do we know we need to jump ship and try something, build a whole new system?
So,
Or use the base default system?
so I actually do that because I actually have multiple different business pages for Facebook for my businesses, and I do different shit on each of them. What it tells me is current system does this, new system does this. Oh, new system's better. We're going to move that over here. And then I keep testing on this one. So you can't just blow it up and move on to something new, right? You have to test your new system to figure it out. So you're not going to jump ship and run from one. That's why the scientific method's so important. People aren't trying something and you make one deviation and it either is or isn't better. And if it's not better, you go back to what you were doing and you make a new deviation. And that one could be better. Now you have a new starting point. If you're not always trying to create deviations off of what you're running, you can't get better. You'll always do what you're doing. And I'll tell you, as somebody, like I said, I like to disrupt markets. There's gonna be somebody that's gonna come along that's gonna try and change shit. And everyone always uses the Redbox and fucking Blockbuster example. You know Netflix went to Blockbuster first too, right? So not only did they say no to Redbox, they said no to Netflix. They had 2 shots at it, and they fucked them both off, and now they don't exist. Because people change stuff and they make it better. So if you're not always trying to move forward or recreate or do something that's new, someone will. And if they pass you, you will never catch them because they set the new trend. Like he was asking me, he's like, well, couldn't someone in and do what you do? 100%. Lots of people have tried. And I'm welcome to it. I'll give them a whole fucking business plan. If you can do it better than me, I deserve to get beat. I don't need to hold my cards close to my chest. Running a business ain't that hard. The emotions part is where you get fucked. I'm afraid of this. I need to choke all this stuff. I got to be the bottleneck. I got to be in control. I got to be making all the decisions. You can't do that. I close at 100%. If you got 4 guys that close at 80%, that's 320%. Fuck your 100. I want 100 people doing 60%. But no one looks at it like that because they're not, oh, I'm losing 40. No, you're gaining thousands. But that's the whole point of building a system. If things are measurable, if things are repeatable, if things are scalable, there's no stop to how big your business can become. But in order to make things repeatable, what do you got to have? Systems. For things to be scalable, what do you have to have? For things to be measurable, what do you have to have? Do you know how many systems that you create every single day? Hundreds. And they're all just tied to decisions. So really at the end of the day, all you have to start doing is questioning whether or not the systems you're living in are going to take you where you want to go or not. And if they're not, you have to make a decision to change them. Not we're working on changing it, because anybody can say that shit. But that's really all I got unless anybody has questions left.
So crazy to think of it. You developed a system since you came here. You're coming in this door.
That door, yep.
You're coming in the side door. I noticed it because I'm not even coming to the front door. I'm coming to the little side door.
Yep.
So it's great that you develop systems instantly.
Yeah, I mean, you literally do them every day.
And you've changed it since you got here.
Yep. Like you go to Costco, do you start on the side with all the electronics or do you cut over to go through the fucking spot that's got all the deodorant and shit? You know? I actually do. Yeah. A lot of it depends on weather. But yeah, I mean, there's certain days I'll drive cars. Actually, part of it was because of whether the HOA waters or not. Because if I'm driving at 5 o'clock in the morning and the fucking roads are wet, there's cars I don't want that shit getting on, you know? So I hop in, you know, the one that I'm okay with it because I park it outside. What's that? I don't have one. Whatever it's at. Yep, I'm just running really hard at that age. Honestly, I'll put some of the money to work, but I'm going to do a lot more speaking stuff. But realistically, yeah. My wife has her own professional stuff. She just turned 32, and she's a senior director for a distributing company that's like an $8 billion company. She's making more money than I was at her age right now. And she was like, well, do I have to quit when you're done? I'm like, no. Like, I need you to achieve all the shit that you want to achieve and be done when you're done. But once she is done, we'll literally just move to a different place a month at a time. You know, we'll keep our house where we're at, but, you know, we'll go to fucking Copenhagen and stay for a month and go to Italy or whatever. And that's what I want to do for the rest of my time on the planet is having experiences. Yeah, I do a lot of philanthropy stuff now, but I don't do it on a macro scale. Like I'll go and I buy new turf for like the animal shelter near my house. Or there's individuals who will actually go and rescue possums and stuff that people find in their yards. And these are just people who their whole backyard is filled with possums and raccoons and shit. And I just send them money on PayPal. And like what's really funny about that is one of them's name is Catherine. And we argue a lot in the like neighborhood group. And I sent her $2,500 one day because she put a post up about them being out of food, like feed. And she messaged me. She's like, "Do you make a mistake? Like, I feel like this is a typo. Like, do you mean to send $25?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Well, we argue." I'm like, "What you're doing is noble. It doesn't matter if we agree on politics. I don't have time to fucking go out and rescue all of these animals, but you do. So if I can use what I do to help you do what you do, then I have a piece of your help, and you can still keep doing it." And she's like, "A lot of people don't think that way." But I just don't, like I said, I don't have to agree with you to like what you're doing. I don't have to like you to do business with you. I just have to know that what you're doing makes sense, it's in line with my core values, and I can get on board with it. And if you don't have core values, like, I don't have any professionally. I have core values from a personal standpoint. And that's how I judge everything, is people have to be in line with the way that I feel about the world. What's that? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's not, the list isn't long. I just like people that are honest, is my big one. Two, I like people that are authentic, because I don't care if you're different than me. Like, if you walk into the hair salon I own, none of the fucking people in there are anything alike. They don't dress alike, they don't look alike, they don't talk alike. Like, we do everything from fucking box braids to blue hair tint. I got staff that can do it all. And the reason why is, and I'll use another lateral. Do you guys remember Yahoo and Google when they fought? Are any of you guys old enough for that? It was two different philosophies about the internet. One was, we want you to stay on our site as long as fucking possible. Consume all of our news, read all of our sports, do your email with us, all of that shit. And Yahoo got gigantic because they needed all sorts of fucking people to handle all of that. What did Google do? Where do you want to go? That's the only difference in their business models. Yahoo tried to supply anything that anybody could possibly want in their ecosystem, and they failed because you can't possibly do that. Google won because they're like, "Hey, whatever you want, we got it." And that was how they won the war. And so it's the same thing when it comes into doing businesses or anything like that. Your employees, all of that kind of stuff, you want people to be honest about what they need and what they want. Do you want to grow as an employee here? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to have this role or whatever? How well do you know the people that work for you? What's important to them? Is it family? Is it money? Is it free time? Is it cars? Is it vacations? The minute you can make parallels to that kind of stuff, you can help them. But, I mean, your core value stuff for me, like I said, I want them to be who they are all the time. I want them to say what they think all the time, right? And I want them to mean it if they say it. And those are the only things I care about. I don't look at anything else. I don't care where you came from. None of that stuff matters to me. I got in trouble at that Chicago business for hiring people from the south side of Chicago. If y'all know anything about Chicago, most people don't hire people from over there. But I got told, people were like, "Oh, can you ask them to use a more phone-friendly name?" No. I'm not having that conversation. Y'all can go do that. That is not in my wheelhouse. But I'm hiring like Shanitas and stuff, and they didn't like it. I hired a bunch of gay people too. They didn't like that either. And it was referenced as, what did they say? Alternative lifestyle people, what they're saying. So they said urban and alternative lifestyle people is how it was phrased to me when they were asking me about my hiring. Because I colored up that whole room. Latinos, blacks, like it didn't matter. I was hiring the people. Because I wanted people that want the fucking opportunity. And when I met someone from University of Iowa, they didn't want it. They had a great resume, but they'd clock out at 5, and they would go home. And I owed them a certain amount of money because of where they went to school. And I never bought that shit. I never bought that shit. So I hired the people that needed it. All of the fucking people that those people had a problem with me for hiring, they were all top 5 in sales. They blew out everybody. Because when you show somebody to make 6 figures that hasn't been able to get a place that would give them more than $15 an hour, you bet your ass they're going to chase it. And if you show them the roadmap to make it and they trust you, they'll run the play. So all that shit starts with you and your systems and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you communicate.